I'm Sasha.
And I'm Halley.
And we're going to talk about comic books and Russian literature.
Because we have a lot of boyfriends.
What do comic books and Russian literature have in common?
Basically nothing.
But we're going to talk about how Deadpool and One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich use the same narrative style.
Okay, before you turn this video off, we promise to make this interesting regardless of if you've read either of those things. One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich is a novel from 1962 written by Alexander
Solzhenitsyn.
Bless you, about a prisoner in a Soviet work camp. Deadpool, on the other hand,
is a comic book anti-hero within the Marvel Universe who started in 1991 and first appeared within an X-Men storyline. He's since had his own spin-off series. Deadpool himself is Wade Wilson, who has undergone genetic experiments that have kind of made him immortal, but also completely insane. Deadpool's incredibly popular. He's kind of the David Sedaris of comic books.
funny and universally liked.
So how do they have the same narrative style?
In One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, the author employs a writing style characteristic of Russian folktales. This means that there are basically 3 different voices of narration within the story.
Similarly, Deadpool uses 3 distinct voices within the comics, and those 3 distinct voices are within Wade Wilson, Deadpool's head.
In One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, the first narrator is called the Skaz. This is essentially an alter ego to Ivan. This is a prisoner who's on the same educational level, but a more skilled narrator.
In Deadpool, there is the voice within Deadpool's head. It's not the character himself, but it's a more flair-filled voice to describe what's going on in the story and how the character is feeling.
And thus a more skilled narrator. The second voice of narration in One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich is this omniscient, educated narrator. This is basically the author's narration. It's more intellectual, more philosophical.
In Deadpool, there is the captions, which is the traditional narrator that's characteristic of many comic books. This voice is often more intelligent and has a greater grasp of the story. He also even argues with Deadpool and criticizes him on some of the more absurd things that he does.
The third voice of narration in Ivan Denisovich is Ivan himself, although this is narrated in the third person. This narrator is used for flashbacks, daydreams, stuff like that.
In Deadpool, this translates to the actual speech bubbles that are used by Deadpool within the comic book story. These are in first person, although he sometimes does talk to himself in third person or second person. These are of a low intellectual status and characteristic of the character we all know as Deadpool.
So the next time someone comes up to you on the street and says, "What do comic books have to do with Russian literature?"
Because we all know that happens all the time.
You'll have an answer. Nobody's business. I told you we needed some Rihanna.